Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Bill Riviere, and I am the State Safe Routes to School Coordinator from NJDOT's Bureau of Safety, Bicycle, and Pedestrian Programs. As SRTS Coordinator and Manager of our Local Planning Assistance Program, my work is all about improving safety and accessibility for people who walk and bike. I work with New Jersey municipalities on plans for improved bicycle and pedestrian circulation. I work with our TMA partners to educate children on how to walk and bike safely, and I've spoken at senior centers across the state, teaching about traveling safely as we get older. I've worked in the bike ped world for over 20 years, and I'm amazed at how far we've come and all the improvements that we continue to make. In today's session, titled School Zone Safety Strategies, we'll focus on real examples of how these strategies have been designed and successfully employed in school zones throughout New Jersey. Before we get started, please note that this session is being recorded, and after the Academy, the recordings of this and all the other sessions will be made available online. I hope you enjoyed today's session and join us for the next one on September 21st from 12 to 1:30. If you haven't already, register at saferoutesnj.org. With that said, I'll now turn it over to our first presenter, Anna Younes.
All right, so hi everyone. I will be presenting some findings on pedestrian and bicyclist involved crashes, and specifically the associations with spatial factors and infrastructure and equity impacts. And I am Hannah Younes, and I am a postdoctoral research associate at the Voorhees Transportation Center at Rutgers University. So fatal bicycle and pedestrian involved crashes account for 1/3 of all fatal motor vehicle crashes in New Jersey. Non-motorist involved crashes, which are either fatal injury or property damage only, occur disproportionately more in low-income and minority communities. So some of the questions that I'm posing for this talk is, what is the relationship between non-motorist involved crashes and geocoded crashes in equity in terms of low-income and minority communities? And what are some community hotspots for crashes? And what are the risk factors for fatal crashes? And you'll see in those three pictures below, those are the roads with the highest number of fatal crashes. So the data that I'm using for this this talk, for the study, is over 31,000 pedestrian and bicyclist involved crashes between 2016 and 2020. The crashes came from the Safety Voyager database from NJDOT and the Numeric database from the NJDHTS. I'm looking at the subset you'll see on the crash table. I'm looking at this subset of total crashes that are either pedestrian or cyclist, and that encompasses 31,000 and 598. Other data that I'm using is from the DVRPC, and that's sidewalk and crosswalk data, which is the picture that you'll see on the right of the screen, which is available for the DVRPC region, and the picture that is that I'm showing there is of Camden specifically. Then there is overburden communities data for NJDEP, and then the population density data comes from the Smart Location database, and then from the U.S. Census Bureau we have the high income communities. So the first thing I'm looking at is the percentage of geocoded crashes in New Jersey. In order to be able to do any sort of spatial analysis, I need crashes to have this latitude and longitude coordinates. So what I saw initially is that 90% of crashes are geocoded. That means that about 3,000 crashes are excluded due to the lack of coordinates, and a small proportion are actually fatal crashes, 20 of those. The rate of geocoded crashes varies from municipality to municipality, and you can see that in that table, where Hoboken has 97% of crashes that are geocoded, all the way to Elizabeth, which only had 75% of crashes geocoded. So what we're asking here is, are crashes more likely to be geocoded in high-income areas and areas with more white people? We'll show you the next slide. So what we do see looking at those like over 500 municipalities and doing a correlation analysis is that as the percentage of minorities and low-income household increases, there are more reported crashes. And as the percentage of minority and low-income household increases, those reported crashes are less likely to be geocoded. So those communities are burdened with more crashes, and then on top of that, the crashes are less likely to have that complete geocoding information for spatial analysis. Go to the next one. So here I'm showing you that the map of overburdened communities and geocoded crashes, and overburdened community is defined as a census block group that has at least 35% of households that are low income and at least 40% identify as a minority. So those communities make up 21% of the New Jersey population, and 40% of crashes occur in those communities. So that's, if you're looking at the number of crashes per person, it's disproportionately more in those overburdened communities than in other communities. And then just more of those statistics here. So what I said before was the all crashes, but if you look at different types of crashes, so crashes in the dark, crashes in the daylight, state highway crashes, fatal crashes, and youth-involved crashes, no matter what, it's always going to be higher or disproportionately higher in low-income minority communities than in the state of New Jersey as a whole. So it's always going to be higher than that 21% of the population. Okay. So next I did a hotspot analysis in GIS, in ArcGIS, looking at bike ped crashes per capita. So we have all crashes to the left and then fatal crashes to the right. And you'll see how different it is depending on whether it's all crashes, which include like majority are property damage only. Those are concentrated in northern New Jersey, Newark area, closer to New York, and a little bit in Cape May, Atlantic City area. And then when you look at fatal crashes hotspots, it's a completely different map. You're looking mostly at southern New Jersey and a small hotspot as well in northern New Jersey, but much smaller compared to the other map. So then in my regression analysis, I'm looking at which factors impact whether a crash is fatal for a pedestrian or a bicyclist, and then do those factors differ between pedestrians and bicyclist crashes? And then what is the proximity of a crosswalk and a sidewalk a significant factor in the fatality of pedestrians and in pedestrian crashes? And this analysis was done only for the DVR-PC region. It's actually not done for bicyclist crashes in the DVR-PC region because there were too few of those. So we're only looking at pedestrian crashes in that region. That region is shown in the map, is shaded. So some of the factors considered are the road type, like conditions, environmental conditions, vehicle type, the speed of the roadway, and then the availability of a sidewalk and crosswalk, and then some of those social demographic variables at the community level. So in all of New Jersey, 3% of bike ped crashes are fatal. But in that DVR-PC region, which kind of goes back to that hotspot map where we saw those southern New Jersey crashes, hotspots, 6% of crashes are fatal. So like twice as likely to be fatal in that region compared to the rest of New Jersey. And then we can go to the next slide. So this is the entire map. If we need to get back to this at the end, the entire graph for the results, but we'll go to the next slide where we can see all of the results. Sorry. So what we see is kind of what we've seen in the literature in the past. Non-motorists age 65 and up are more likely to suffer a fatal injury. State and U.S. highways more likely to be fatal for pedestrians than other county and local roads. Street lights conditions, really big factor, both for bicycles and pedestrians, 6 to 7.5 times more likely to be fatal if there are no street lights available compared to the daylight. The speed of the roadway, much higher as well, looking if you exceed 40 miles per hour of the speed limit, not the actual speed of the vehicle, just the speed limit. And then the truck or bus collision is particularly deadlier for cyclists, over 10 times more than cars. And then having no sidewalk or no crosswalk available is 1.6 times more likely to be fatal for pedestrians in that DVRPC region where we could do the analysis. And then cyclist crashes in low-income areas are also 1.6 times more likely to be fatal in those areas than other areas. So some conclusions for planning, safety, and Vision Zero initiatives. Light conditions is a huge factor here. And at night, a crash is already twice as likely to be deadly if there are no lights available or if they are broken. So obviously we can't control whether it's daylight or night, but we can control light conditions, and we can reduce crashes just by fixing broken lights or installing them where it's warranted. Crosswalk and sidewalks where pedestrians had no access to either, the crash there was 1.6 times more likely to be deadly. We have the data in the DVRPC region. We don't have the data anywhere else in New Jersey. So data availability is crucial there to identify where those corridors might be. And then the speed, lower speed limit where warranted would be or another form of a traffic calming measure that forces motor vehicles to slow down are needed throughout New Jersey. And then bike lanes can save lives. We do not have the data, so having data would be very, very useful. But what we do know is that low-income areas do not have as many bike lanes than higher income neighborhoods, which may explain the increased likelihood of fatality. And then overall, as I've kind of mentioned, there is a need for better data. We did not have the number of lanes available that was missing in over 83% of the records. The sidewalk and crosswalk availability is not available in all of New Jersey. We don't have much information on the vehicle involved, including like the weight, the year, and then the availability of a bike lane, etc. That would be useful in making those conclusions. So this study is actually published in the Journal of Safety Research. There's a QR code if you're interested in reading the full text, or you can email us if you would like the full paper as well. Thank you very much. And this was funded by the New Jersey Department of Transportation. So we thank New Jersey NJDOT as well. Thank you.
All right, great. Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you.
Maybe I'm the next speaker, John. Okay, hi, everybody. I'm Sean Meehan. I am the Research Project Manager of New Jersey Safe Routes Resource Center. And I'm here today to talk to you about improving safety in school zones on state highways. So building an environment that supports children's ability to walk or bicycle to school safely achieves a wide range of benefits for students, the school, and the whole community. School zones aim to achieve this environment by being areas of reduced speed along a section of roadway in advance of and proximate to a school and school facilities. Many children do not currently walk or bike to school due to safety concerns. Focusing on strategies for reducing child pedestrian crashes within school zones is an effective means of reducing injuries among children who are already walking or biking to school, while encouraging other families to give walking and biking a try. This is especially true for state highways, which often have higher posted speed limits, multiple traffic lanes, higher traffic volumes, and fewer signalized intersections, all of which leave pedestrians vulnerable. These characteristics, coupled with the fact that school zones alone do not necessarily slow vehicle speeds, demand the implementation of proven strategies to slow traffic speeds in school zones on state highways. Unless otherwise posted, the speed limit in New Jersey school zones is 25 miles per hour, as established by state statute. The speed limit applies during recess when children are clearly visible from the roadway or while children are going to or leaving school. Municipalities and counties may establish a speed limit less than or greater than 25 miles per hour based on traffic and engineering studies. Excuse me. Studies have shown there is a gap between driver perception and reality related to speed. Drivers are aware that they should travel slower when children are present, but tend to underestimate their driving speed in school zones. Speed limits alone are not enough. They have to be coupled with strategies to increase visibility, reduce vehicle speed, and reduce pedestrian exposure to traffic. NJDOT, the New Jersey Department of Transportation, is working to reduce the number of pedestrian and bicycle fatalities through the New Jersey Strategic Highway Safety Plan. The most recent Strategic Highway Safety Plan was released in 2020. The plan recognizes the value and incorporates best practices of the Safe Systems approach and other zero deaths initiatives, such as Vision Zero and Road to Zero. All initiatives are built on the principles of not accepting the loss of any life, designing a transportation system that accounts for human error, and prioritizing safety over other goals. Today, I'll be discussing several strategies that can be used to improve pedestrian safety in school zones by reducing vehicle speed, increasing visibility, and reducing pedestrian exposure. Many of them have already been employed on state highways throughout New Jersey. FHWA's Safe Transportation for Every Pedestrian, or STEP initiative, promotes safety countermeasures to reduce the frequency and severity of pedestrian crashes. FHWA has chosen these countermeasures based on their proven effectiveness. Today, we'll be discussing crosswalk visibility enhancements, road safety audits, medians and pedestrian refuge islands, pedestrian hybrid beacons, rectangular rapid flashing beacons, or RRFBs, road diets, and walkways. So a walkway is any type of defined space or pathway for use by a person traveling by foot or using a wheelchair. These may be pedestrian walkways, shared use paths, sidewalks, or roadway shoulders. Well-designed pedestrian walkways, shared use paths, and sidewalks improve the safety and mobility of pedestrians. Pedestrians should have direct and connected network of walking routes to desired destinations without gaps or abrupt changes. A buffer zone between walkways and adjacent traffic is preferred. Sidewalks offer a 65 to 89% reduction in crashes involving pedestrians walking along roadways and paved shoulders, and can also result in up to a 71% reduction. Excuse me. Crosswalk visibility enhancement group of countermeasures includes improved lighting, advanced or in-street warning signage, pavement markings, and geometric design elements. Such features may be used in combination to indicate optimal or preferred locations for people to cross and to help reinforce the driver requirement to yield the right of way to pedestrians at crossing locations. High visibility markings improve the visibility of the crosswalk compared to the standard parallel lines. Parking restriction on the crosswalk approach improves sight lines for motorists and pedestrians. Advanced stop or yield markings and signs reduce the threat of multiple threat crash. Curb extensions improve sight distance between drivers and pedestrians and narrows crossing distance. Improved nighttime lighting helps to illuminate pedestrians, and we just heard from Hannah how important lighting is. In-street stop or yield signs may increase driver yielding rates. High visibility crosswalks can reduce pedestrian injury crashes up to 40%. Intersection lighting can reduce pedestrian crashes up to 42%. Advanced yield or stop markings and signs can reduce pedestrian crashes up to 25%. A pedestrian crossing island or refuge area is a raised island located between opposing traffic lanes at an intersection or mid-block locations, which separate crossing pedestrians from motor vehicles. For pedestrians to safely cross a roadway, they must estimate vehicle speeds, adjust their walking speed, determine gaps in traffic, and predict vehicle paths. Installing raised medians or pedestrian crossing islands can help improve safety by simplifying these tasks and allowing pedestrians to cross one direction of traffic at a time. Pedestrian refuge islands can provide up to a 56% reduction in pedestrian crashes. Proven safety countermeasures often work best when combined with each other. So I've tried to locate examples of combined implementation of proven safety countermeasures implemented on state roads throughout New Jersey as examples. My first example on Route 206 in Hamilton Township combined sidewalks, a median refuge island, and high visibility crosswalks. My second example is from Route 30 in Atlantic City. The before picture that you're seeing is an image from Google Earth, and it's showing exactly why upgrades were needed. We have a pedestrian attempting to cross Route 30 with little assistance from the existing infrastructure. Our after images show an improved crossing with the addition of sidewalks, a median refuge island, and high visibility crosswalks, so a much easier and safer crossing. Our next proven safety countermeasure is the Rectangular Rapid Flashing Beacon, or RRFB. A marked crosswalk or pedestrian warning sign can improve safety for pedestrians crossing the road, but at times may not be sufficient for drivers to visibly locate crossing locations and to yield to pedestrians. To enhance pedestrian conspicuity and increase driver awareness at uncontrolled marked crosswalks, transportation agencies can install a pedestrian-actuated RRFB to accompany a pedestrian warning sign. RRFBs consist of two rectangular-shaped yellow indications, each with a light-emitting diode or LED array-based light source. RRFBs flash with an alternating high frequency when activated to enhance the conspicuity of pedestrians at the crossing to drivers. RRFBs can reduce pedestrian crashes up to 47% and can increase motorist yielding rates up to 98%. Our RRFB example is on Maple Avenue in Plainsboro Township. As you can see in the picture, the RRFBs have been installed to enhance a mid-block crossing that also includes high visibility crosswalk. The pedestrian hybrid beacon is a traffic control device designed to help pedestrians safely cross higher speed roadways at mid-block crossings and uncontrolled intersections. The beacon head consists of two red lenses above a single yellow lens. The lenses remain dark until a pedestrian desiring to cross the street pushes the call button to activate the beacon, which then initiates a yellow to red lighting sequence consisting of flashing and steady lights that directs motorists to slow and come to a stop and provides the right of way to pedestrians to safely cross the roadway before going dark again. Pedestrian hybrid beacons can provide up to 55% reduction in pedestrian crashes, a 29% reduction in total crashes, and up to a 15% reduction in serious injury and fatal crashes. Our first example of pedestrian hybrid beacon is on New Jersey Route 27 and Magnolia Drive in Woodbridge Township, adjacent to the Metro Park train station. At this site, the pedestrian hybrid beacon is installed along with high visibility crosswalks and stop bars to ensure that drivers stop when the beacon is activated before entering the crosswalk. Our second example is a crossing on Route 202 in Morristown. This example combines retroreflective pedestrian crossing signage, higher visibility crosswalks, and a pedestrian hybrid beacon. Our next proven safety countermeasure is a roadway reconfiguration or road diet. A road diet converts an existing 4-lane undivided roadway to a 3-lane roadway consisting of 2 through lanes and a center 2-way left turn lane. Road diet installations can result in fewer lanes for pedestrians to cross, reduced right angle crashes as side street motorists cross 3 versus 4 travel lanes, traffic calming and more consistent speeds, the opportunity to install pedestrian refuge islands, bicycle lanes, on-street parking, or transit stops. Bicycle lanes are also a proven safety countermeasure. And they also offer a more community-focused, complete streets environment that better accommodates the needs of all roadway users. A 4 to 3 lane road diet conversion has been shown to lead to a 19 to 47% reduction in total crashes. So this before picture shows Main Street or Route 71 in Asbury Park, with 2 travel lanes in each direction and a very long pedestrian crossing. This after picture shot shows the road diet along Main Street that has removed 1 travel lane from each direction, allowing for the installation of a center turn lane and bicycle lanes. The road diet also included high visibility crosswalks. The road diet has helped to shorten the distance that pedestrians must cross and be exposed to vehicle traffic. The final proven safety countermeasure we'll be highlighting today is the Road Safety Audit, or RSA. RSAs are performed by a multidisciplinary team independent of a project. RSAs consider all road users, account for human factors and road user capabilities, are documented in a formal report, and require a formal response from the road owner. RSAs can be performed in any phase of project development, from planning through construction, and on any size project, from minor intersection and roadway retrofits to large-scale construction projects. Agencies are encouraged to conduct RSAs at the earliest stage possible, as all roadway design options and alternatives are being explored. RSAs provide the following benefits: reduced number and severity of crashes due to safer designs, reduced costs resulting from early identification and mitigation of safety issues before projects are built, improved awareness of safe design practices, increased opportunities to integrate multimodal safety strategies and proven safety countermeasures, and expanded ability to consider human factors in all facets of design. Road safety audits can result in a 10 to 60% reduction in total crashes. Our example of a road safety audit was conducted along Route 130 in Burlington City. Route 130 is a high-volume, multi-lane road that is considered one of the most dangerous roads for walking in the state. Students and other pedestrians must cross Route 130 to get to school. In 2016, a Burlington City high school student was struck and killed along Route 130. NJDOT partnered with local officials and Burlington City high school students to conduct a road safety audit and workshop with students to come together to discuss options for making Route 130 safer for pedestrians. While lower speed limits, high visibility crosswalks, and added sidewalks had already been implemented, speeding remained an issue. One of the results from this RSA was a road diet that reduced Route 130 to 2 lanes in each direction with a shoulder that serves as a buffer. The road diet was implemented to help slow traffic down and create a buffer between vehicles and pedestrians, particularly students walking to Burlington High School. I encourage you to check out all of the 28 of the FHWA's proven safety countermeasures to see how they can be implemented to improve safety in school zones in your community. In addition, I also wanted to highlight another excellent NJDOT resource for helping to improve safety in school zones, the New Jersey School Zone Design Guide. The New Jersey School Zone Design Guide provides guidance for the community, government, and schools involved in the effort to enable and encourage children, including those with disabilities, to walk and bicycle to school. The focus of the guide is on engineering measures that can make the environment around schools safe for children and parents to walk and bicycle to school, highlighting physical improvements to the school grounds and the transportation infrastructure to improve access and safety and to minimize conflicts with motor vehicles. Examples explored in the guide range from simple sidewalk replacement and repair to more complex traffic calming situations, such as speed humps and curb extensions. Illustrations of implemented best practices were gathered from school communities across New Jersey. The New Jersey School Zone Design Guide is available for download on the New Jersey Safe Routes Resource Center website. So my role here today has been to talk about infrastructure and proven safety countermeasures, but the following presentations will focus on inexpensive and flexible approaches to improving safety that prioritize children traveling on foot or bike. A lot of the efforts you're going to hear about were documented in the School Zone Safety Strategies Project Report, an effort of the New Jersey Safe Routes Resource Center. With schools reopening again after pandemic closures, there were a lot of concerns about increased traffic during arrival and departure at schools due to parents choosing to drive their children to school to avoid school buses and carpools they may have relied on in the past. And people were looking for something new and eager to try new solutions. As part of the School Zone Safety Strategies Project, we work with our partners at the state's Transportation Management Associations to identify examples of these inexpensive and flexible projects from throughout the state. it was important for us to produce real case studies based on projects from New Jersey to show people, hey, look, they did it, you can do it too. Having national examples is great, but we always face the criticism of people saying, well, that's California, that won't work here. By focusing on New Jersey, we want to show people that projects like satellite drop-off programs, temporary road closures, and temporary one-way streets can and do work in New Jersey. Before I turn the presentation over to our first TMA speaker, Jeremy Szeluga from Avenues in Motion, I wanted to show you my contact information. Please feel free to reach out with any questions. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Sean. Hi, everyone. I hope everyone's having a great day today. I am very excited to come present about the satellite drop-off and specifically the drop-off program that New Providence has been able to accomplish over the past several years. So again, my name is Jeremy. I'm the Safe Routes School Coordinator at Avenues in Motion, and I deal with all of our education programs and all things Safe Routes to School. So go ahead, John. Thank you. So you might be wondering what a satellite drop-off program is. And a satellite drop-off program or encouragement program is meant to alleviate traffic congestion by encouraging parents to use off-site drop-off points instead of directly delivering their children to school. And satellites are designated locations that enable students to safely and conveniently walk the remaining distance to and from school. And we're seeing a lot of benefits from satellite drop-off programs, especially in New Providence. But one of them, and first, is encouraging students to walk and bike to school more. As we know, students should be getting about 60 minutes of exercise per day. And as we know, some of us might be a little bit tired when we wake up in the morning, but when we are able to get up, move around, our heart starts pumping, we're using our muscles more. We're able to get these students into classrooms and they're a little bit more alert and aware and ready to learn and start their day. We're also seeing redistribution of congestion and pollution. And we want to see that over a wider area to reduce the conflict points for vehicles and pedestrians. And that also helps limit indoor air pollution at schools by moving traffic further away. And as we know, cars rather, they're the leading cause of CO2 and pollution in our society today. So anything that we can do to prevent a line of cars in front of our school, we would like to do that. We actually at Avenues in Motion, we have a air quality specialist who brings out a air quality monitor for students to interact with. That's a lot of fun. Students are able to come up and press this little monitor, and it gives them a real-time assessment of what the air quality is like on that day. So, and that's always a lot of fun. It also, another benefit for satellite drop-off programs, it involves the entire school community. If someone lives too far away to walk, or if there is a safety barrier that prevents them from walking, the satellite drop-off program allows them to participate by walking part of the way to the school. And also getting that sort of benefit of exercise. And it's just fun to get up, get some sun, and walk and bike to school. The last thing I want to mention, and it's also very important, is it reduces the number of vehicles on property, on the school property. And by reducing the amount of vehicles, it leaves more room for pedestrians and bicyclists. And that creates a more safe environment for students to walk and bike to school. And that's a very important benefit. And of course, as Sean mentioned, we are looking at a low-cost solutions, things that can be implemented right away and that aren't going to involve major infrastructure improvements, which are still important. So the next thing I want to dive a little bit deeper into the New Providence Drop and Go program and sort of how it works. So each school has multiple satellite locations and multiple drop-off points at each school. And the way that it is prioritized, crossing guards locations are prioritized based on the number of students that are being dropped off. And these are strategically picked spots around the school Sites are never more than a quarter mile from school. That way, that's the easiest access. They operate in the morning and in the afternoon year round. Again, we want to make sure that our students are getting to and from school at all parts of the day and at all drop-off times of the day. And everything is conveniently communicated through the website. As you can see to the picture on the right, this is Allen W. Roberts Safe Route to School, their drop and go plan. So it basically just describes what a drop and go program is, the different locations that the drop off locations are. And there is a really great interactive map that we will be looking at in a later slide that you can kind of see all the different parts of the New Providence drop and go locations. And then I'd like to mention this is a choice with benefits. It's not regulation. So what I mean by that is you are still able to, at least at Allen W. Roberts and Sawbrook, drop off your student in front of the school, but that choice to use the drop and go program will allow students that extra benefit of having exercise and reducing that that CO2 emission right in front of the school. So that's always a positive. So this is Allen W. Roberts, as I mentioned before. We're going to be diving a little bit deeper into how that drop and go system works. How it started, well, there was a lot of traffic concerns and conflict points that were making it high congestion around the school, and it was making it unsafe for pedestrians. So it might, if you can kind of zoom in a little bit on on your pictures, that is Jones Drive, going right next to Allen W. Roberts, and we were having cars. What was happening was there were cars coming from north and south directions into the Allen W. Roberts little circle that they have, and I mapped out that circle with that little blue oval in the middle of that picture. But what was happening was there was a massive line of cars trying to drop off their students in that circle, which that was making it unsafe. There was a lot of cars around the school, which was making it unsafe for students, but it was also making students arrive late to school. It was reported that parents were sitting up in traffic for 45 minutes trying to drop off their students, and not to mention when they're sitting in that line, all the cars are idling. That is further polluting right in front of the school and making indoor air pollution also a concern. We also had parents waiting until after 8:30 to bring their students to school because they wanted to skip that traffic and see if they can get their students still on time, which was again making students arrive a little bit late. So next slide. So what did they do? They opted, a couple of the parents on the PTA committee started brainstorming a few ideas and how to alleviate some of the congestion concerns revolving around Allen W. Roberts. So some of the plans prior to the drop and go were potentially to expanding part of the parking lot so that that parking lot would be able to hold more cars and filter in more cars, not just for teachers, but also for parents. But that was the most logistical idea for this certain scenario. So a couple of the parents, they opted to brainstorm for a drop and go program. And if you can see by the map, I know it's a little bit small, but Allen W. Roberts created three drop and go locations, two coming from the north and then one from the south. And then of course, like I mentioned, you can still drop your student off if you'd like within that circle, but there are benefits to dropping your student off at the satellite locations. So this interactive map is a really great tool that was put together on Google Maps, but it shows the different drop-off locations. It shows where the crossing guards are at all the intersections. It shows the different bike racks that are located on the school. So if your student is biking to school, they have the option to park their bike. And then the park and walk or park and wait locations for parents, that usually takes more effect in the afternoons for when students are leaving school. Their parents don't have to come pick them up at the front of the school. The students can successfully walk to the crossing guards, and then the crossing guards will let them cross the street to the park and wait, designated areas. So there's a picture at the top right. Again, that's Jones Drive. We can see students using the sidewalks, and it is important that they are being dropped off. It is important to note that New Providence, I believe it's 2.5 miles per around the whole town for New Providence schools. So it's highly accessible, especially for a drop and go program. We're also seeing similar initiatives done at Saltbrook School, again, another school in New Providence. They have a little bit more of a unique situation where they have a very long driveway for their drop-off location in front of their school. But again, we are seeing similar issues and concerns around people waiting in lines to get into school to drop off their students, and increasing how much pollution and idling that's going on. So they created 2 of their own drop-off locations away from the school. One of them actually drops behind the school, but it might look like a one-way road where you'd have to do a K-turn. There's a little spot at the end of that driveway for cars to turn around, so they don't have to, back up, and that way we can avoid safety hazards like that. So they have one on the north side and then one on the south side, and if you notice, there are crossing guards at the one coming up from the south. It is important that you drop your student off on the sidewalk side, but also they don't want students to be dropped off right in front of the crossing guard. It's a hazard for the crossing guard. We want to make sure that they can see everything and they can have the best visibility as they possibly can. So it's asked that cars are to pull up next to the sidewalk, but a little bit further down on the road. And everything on New Providence STEM School's website has all that information and sort of how they would like the directions to go for the drop and go program. So some of the drop and go results, obviously reduced traffic congestion and pollution. With less cars idling in front of the school, is creating a lot less pollution and indoor pollution since the cars have been reduced, and the conflict points are also being dispersed throughout different streets, a lot more easy in the morning and the afternoon. But we're also seeing a more orderly and more punctual students on arrival, and on off at the drop and go locations. They're able to walk on the sidewalk all the way to school. So it's not a very chaotic situation where all the students are trying to get in at once, and that's very organized. There's also strengthened relationships with crossing guards. I know parents, teachers, students, they're able to interact with their crossing guards. New Jersey has a great crossing guards community, and we really appreciate all the hard work that they do to keep our students safe. And that also enhances support from parents for safe routes to school. So, we're seeing a pretty major trend in all of our society now that it's becoming more of a popularity to drive to school. But as parents are able to interact with their crossing guards and realize that they are there to help their students, they're more ease of mind to drop their student off at a drop and go location and to walk the rest of the way to school, which is a huge positive. And then it also fosters a walking culture within the community. We want to see our students walking and biking as another form of transportation, and not just now, but also into the future. So if they are, if they start walking and create that culture at a young age, the hope is we would continue to use those skills that we learned for pedestrian and bike safety for years to come. So where to start, if you would like to kind of start or maybe start brainstorming some sort of drop and go satellite program. Get involved. If your school has a PTA, PTO organization, get involved with them. It's always really important to hear from as many people as you possibly can throughout the community, so that you're getting all that feedback and input to make the proper decisions. And that also includes engaging stakeholders, whether it be municipal government, police, if there are other planners, city planners, or you know, those types of would best suit student safety and allow, you know, more students to be more active when walking and biking to school. Another thing that we can do is student arrival and dismissal tallies. These are just great information if you want to find out who is walking and biking to school or who is driving. It is a good idea to look into that a little bit more and use that information to support a plan like a drop and go program. So that's very important. And then contact your local Transportation Management Association or TMA. I have all 8 transportation or TMAs on the right in the picture right there. You can find yours based on your different service area. They can help you as far as bike and pedestrian safety programs, but also helping to map and plan out a drop and go program for the school that you're working with. And I have one last slide. I just wanted to shout out my organization again. If you're interested in learning more about what we do at Avenues of Motion, or trying to find a different program for somewhere in our service area, you can go to our website, avenuesinmotion.org, or you can email me straight directly with my email link right there. We work with we do a lot of walk and bike to school days, and we do cross guard appreciation, but also we do in-class education programs. It is not only important to have those proper infrastructure and non-infrastructure programs like a drop and go, but we also want to make sure that our students are educated and being aware of the different cues to be safe when they're walking and biking to school. So we do these individual in-class education programs where students are able to interact, ask questions, and just be curious about safety in general. And we also do community events. We want to hear from our community. We want to hear from parents and teachers and really everybody. So it's really important to us that we get that feedback from our community so that we're addressing the needs that are most important to you. So that's all for my presentation. And thanks so much for everyone for having me today. And I'll pass it on.
Well, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Lisa Lee, and I work at Easy Ride TMA as the Director of Bike and Pedestrian Programs. Easy Ride serves the residents, schools, and communities of Bergen, Monmouth, and the urban areas in Essex, Passaic, and Union counties. I'm a certified League of American Bicyclist instructor, and very happy to be here with all of you today for this webinar about school zone safety strategies. Next. So I'm going to speak to you today about temporary street closures. As you may know, many schools and communities face safety challenges during the morning drop-off or after-school pickup time. Issues occur when buses, family vehicles, carpools, and students are all arriving or leaving the school at the same time. Temporary street closures use some type of physical barrier. It could be like that plastic horse that you see on the screen. It could be cones, any type of thing like that, to restrict vehicles from critical streets during arrival and departure time. This helps to reduce congestion, minimizes conflicts between cars, people walking and biking, and buses, and also it just frees up more space in the school zones for students who walk and bicycle. Next. So one of our case studies today is 3rd Street in Fairhaven, New Jersey. So this street closure is a long-standing program, and it was established by ordinance 20 years ago by the municipality. So the district and the parents in the community had the support of the municipality, their police department, and all of the government agencies that are involved. It's a key corridor in Fairhaven, and it connects both sides of town as well as both of the community's elementary schools. Next slide. So what happens is that the police and crossing guards close 3rd Street every morning and every single afternoon through traffic. Okay, and the times are listed there. They just chose an hour in the morning and an hour in the afternoon that coincides with a little bit before the bells ring for morning arrival and departure. And walking and bicycling is promoted as the preferred mode of travel to get to school. They actually have this amazing thing called Transition Day, and it happens every year. And because the first school, Sickle School, is a grade pre-K to 3, and then Knollwood School is grade 4 to 6. So what happens on Transition Day is that all of the 4th graders at Knollwood School on this special day, they ride their bicycles over to the little school, to Sickle School, and they say hello, they greet the 3rd graders, and then they ride back together with them to their next school that they're going to the following year to welcome them. And then they have an orientation. And along the way, it's actually pretty amazing, to see. They have all of the parents, they've got the mayor, they've got the principal, and the PTO are out there cheering on the students as they ride from the little school to the big school to begin their next stage of education and academic endeavors. Next. So bicycling to school for Fairhaven has become a community tradition. It's an expectation. And it actually is really great. I mean, we know how many times nowadays students, feel anxious. We know that there's things going on in school where kids don't always feel welcome. They may feel bullied. But this type of Transition Day, it actually is designed to really warmly greet the younger students and to help alleviate their nervousness about going up to a larger school, a bigger school building with older students. So, I mean, I really can't say enough about how wonderful this tradition is, and I would strongly encourage it, in your community if it's possible. It's not only a fun event, the parents really like this too. So it's just something nice about the community, and they talk about it, and people actually even move to this community so that their children can take part in it and, bicycle to school or walk to school. So like I said, the community supports it, the residents support it, everyone knows about this, and the parents are willing to take another way to get to wherever they're going, with the sole purpose of keeping their children, safe and giving them this opportunity to bike to school. And some parents have even said that they've chosen Fairhaven because of this tradition, that it's the place where they want to raise their families. So next, Asbury Park is another community that utilizes temporary street closures to keep students safe at drop-off and dismissal time. And in this case, the incident that really prompted their move to doing this was a few years ago. A very beloved crossing guard was actually struck by a speeding car while trying to cross students to go to the school. And, it's a very small community. The whole town is a mile, and there's about 13,000 residents, and it's a walking school district. So, people were very upset when this happened. And so it prompted this change. The community, the municipality, were all for, doing something to prevent that, because that was a senior crossing guard. But of course, everyone thought about that could have been my child, that was hit by that speeding driver. So, and in New Jersey, at least in the areas where we serve, many of our crossing guards are wonderful senior citizens who volunteer, are paid very little, to go out there in whatever weather, rain, snow, sleet. They're there every single day, and they are, really treasured by the children as people who are helping to keep them safe and saying good morning to them. So, this was a good decision for them. But not only that, it's a good decision for many of our communities in New Jersey, because not only are you doing this to keep your crossing guards safe, but you're doing it as a way to keep those crossing guards, to keep them involved in this activity. Because if you're in a community where people are getting hit, at drop-off or at dismissal time, students or the crossing guards or parents or staff, that those crossing guards aren't going to stay there for a long time. So, consider this as a way to not only safeguard your children, but also safeguard those crossing guards who are very valuable, much more than sometimes we realize. So Asbury Park is actually a community that's arranged in like a grid, like it's very like north and south, east and west. So it's very easy for them to block off that one street in front of the school and then reroute the traffic to just go on a parallel street. So if you're in a community like that, this isn't really going to, disturb your traffic patterns that much. And on some of the streets in Asbury Park, they're actually really key roadways that everyone uses to go through. But nobody gets angry about this because, again, like I said, they're doing this to safeguard their children. Okay, next slide. So lessons learned. Truly, safety for students and crossing guards is crucial. And if you decide to try and implement something like this, you might hear some negative feedback, right, from some families. Oh, I want to just be able to drive up and see my student, walk through the door. Well, they may not be able to do that, but they could park a block away, and they can certainly walk with their kids right up to the front of the school if they so desire. But I think the key thing is really be sure to explain your reasons up front very clearly. Who is going to argue about safety for their children, right? So, I suggest start a pilot, start with one school at a time, and then, share the results of what you're seeing, share the photos, ask students and parents, who are supportive to give you quotes that you can share with others. And then definitely involve the PTO so that they can help to promote the benefits of, this implementation with others who may be more naysayers, right? You can let them know, reduce traffic, improve safety. Also, reduced vehicles in the street supports student and staff health. As Jeremy noted before, right? If you don't close the street, there may be many parents who arrive early before school ends, or who hang out after the drop-off period, and they may idle in their cars, and all of that idling creates a lot of pollution, and studies have shown that pollution goes right into the school buildings for your students and your staff to breathe. So we all know asthma is the #1 chronic disease for children. We have a very high asthma rate here for adults and children in New Jersey. And studies show that an idling car makes 20 times more pollution than a car that's actually driving 30 miles per hour. And children breathe in 50% more air pollution per pound of body weight than adults. So this is really a great way to not only improve safety, but to improve the health of the air around where your children, are growing. So the other thing you can finally do is talk about, when you're trying to persuade, the community to try this, Tell them about the successes that are happening in other communities. This video, these slides that we are sharing with you today are things that you can share, and you can certainly reach out to each of your local TMAs. Jeremy showed you that slide. So every single county in New Jersey is covered by someone like us, Safe Routes to School coordinators who care about your students and safety. And we would be very happy to, come and speak to the PTO or the school administration or the municipality about these initiatives and the successes that have happened in other places. Finally, you can survey the parents and the kids, let their quotes, let the numbers speak for yourself. And you can take a look, look at the aftermath. You can compare what is the crash rate, pedestrian crash rate before you implement this type of thing. And then, do a study again after you implement this, maybe 3 months, 6 months, a year after, and let those numbers speak to the reduced dangers that are there for your children. And finally, one last thing, right? Because there are a lot of new school buildings that are being built. As our facilities and infrastructure is growing older, I'm seeing schools and districts in the areas where I serve, they're branching out, they're finding new places because we're growing, right? New Jersey, it's a great place to live. There's a lot of people moving in. So a lot of our schools are growing. Well, make sure that you share for those people that make those decisions in your district. Please, please don't put a new school on a busy county road with heavy traffic, transit buses. Look for, a more safer road so that your children can walk and bike to school. That's all I have to say today. And again, I popped my contact information in the chat. So please reach out to me if you have any questions. And I'm going to pass it on to Miss Caty from RideWise.
Thank you for that introduction, Lisa. Hi, everyone. My name is Caty Whalen. I am the Bike and Pedestrian Safety Manager at RideWise, which serves Somerset County in New Jersey and its 21 municipalities. Today, I'm going to talk about temporary one-way streets. So we're going to focus today on the Bound Brook School District. And temporary road closures or the temporary one-way streets serves the Bound Brook community, and it controls the direction and the amount of traffic that is going to be in front of the school. So for the streets that are limited to one-way travel, in the mornings, it goes from about 7 to 8:30 in the morning, and then around 2:30 to 3:30 in the afternoon, 5 times per week. The one-way streets, they're the best and the safest way for the pickup and drop-off policies. So a lot of schools, especially ones that are walking districts that don't have busing, more of the parents or the guardians are going to be dropping their kids off if they're not walking and biking to school. So with Bound Brook being a walking school district, there's a little bit more traffic in the community coming from the parents that are commuting their kids to school by car. We're going to talk about the benefits of the temporary one-way streets. So in the Bound Brook School District, all of these schools have actually enabled this policy except the high school. They have enacted the changes and it's resulted in a more consistent environment of getting to school every day with the car line. So because of this new way of changing the direction of how cars can travel on the streets, it has fewer delays, there's fewer idling conditions, and then overall the conditions are safer for the students as they enter and exit the car. Something too that we can talk about is no one maybe thinks about the ages of children that directly affects how fast people can enter and exit a car as well as the car line speed. So as we continue into the next slide, for Smalley School is an elementary school for students grades 3 to 6. So these students are going to be able to get out of the car faster versus the Lamont Annex School and the Lafayette School, which is elementary for younger students, grades pre-K, kindergarten, first and second, where some kids might be even getting out of a 5-point harness versus just a regular seatbelt. So that's something we talk about too, with why we have the one-way closures to change the speed of the car lines. So for Smalley School in the Bound Brook School District, we're going to talk about how the schools can choose of which direction of traffic to close. So when we focus on Smalley, Cherry Avenue is the school that Smalley resides in. And the location of the school is important because it's not located on a main road. It's located a little bit behind where a main road is. So if you can see on the map here, and we'll continue in the next slide, not just yet, but where you can see it a little bit closer, is the vehicles are going to enter on Windsor Street, where it's directly off of the main road from West Maple Ave. So you have to turn left onto a side street to actually access Smalley School. So Smalley School closes Cherry Avenue in the eastbound direction of traffic. As we continue, so then the students or the parents, as the parents are driving on Cherry Avenue in the one-way direction, after they drop their child off of the school, they only have the option to turn left onto Hayward Street or to turn right into a different residential neighborhood to exit. So if you could go to the next slide. The parking, oh, sorry, I thought the picture was after this, but okay. So thank you, John. So if you can see a little bit closer on Cherry Ave, where Windsor Ave runs perpendicular. So as people are turning left off of West Maple Avenue onto Windsor Street, they're going to make a left-hand turn onto Cherry Avenue. You can only go from Cherry Avenue in the westbound direction. As you're coming towards Smalley School, you'll come to the end of Cherry Ave, where you can only turn left onto Hayward Street to exit the school. So parents only have the option of traveling one way in the car line, which makes it more effective to drop their student off safer and they can get to school. If you can go back to that next slide for me, please. So when we talk about this, it's the parking and making U-turns are prohibited during the school hours of traveling, which makes it a little bit safer. And then this school is from grades 3 to 6. So it's easier for the parents to be dropping their students off during these temporary road, the one-ways. And then next slide, please. So here is a better description or a visual. You can see this is actually the corner of Hayward Avenue or Hayward Street and Cherry Avenue. So this is after the school where parents are going to only be able to turn obviously left or right, but you can't enter from Hayward Street. So this is where on Maple Avenue, you have to come around the school and then just drop off the one way. On the left, you'll see an image, which is on Hayward Street, where you're not able to make that left-hand turn because it's only the temporary one-way. So like I said before, they about close the street at 7 in the morning until about 8:30 when the barriers are removed. And then from 2 to 3 p.m., give or take 3:30 is when the barrier removed in the afternoon. So the best way that you can move through this or to maybe enact temporary one-way streets is the principal of this school a couple years ago started this program in works with the Bound Brook Police Department and the Department of Public Works, where they gave them this barrier, the sign. You can also use cones to maybe stop the traffic, and then the signage really helps as well. What's really great is the relationship that they have with this crossing guard. So that the woman sitting over there, her name is Marge. She's been with the Bound Brook School District for about 20 years, regulating that corner. And even though they have signs, there's still sometimes people who don't understand the temporary one-way. So every year before school starts, the principal communicates how the car line drop-off works and the road to the temporary one-way streets, so that the parents and the guardians, as they're dropping their child off at school, can have a smoother car line moving forward. And then my next slide. Here are just some additional photos of the car line moving in. So the top left image is where Cherry Avenue and Hayward Street meet. So that is the corner where cars will be coming down. In the bottom left is actually the new principal, Susanna Carbone, who every day stands in about her 3-inch little heels directing car traffic with the additional vice principal of the school. And then you'll see there are cars only moving in the westbound direction on Cherry Ave. What's also great in the Bound School District is the administration is really involved in the car line drop-off. So typically in different schools, you might see some administration more involved than others. So as school has just started for the one-way streets working, they're still trying to smooth out some kinks moving forward. They do have some barriers where the car line drivers are only supposed to stay in the line. So it kind of helps to separate the traffic as well moving forward. And then my next slide, please. Okay, and here's just another visual example of more of just going to focus on Smalley right now is the principal in the right-hand corner and then the cars coming down from this way. So during school hours, you're not supposed to be able to park on the road as well. And then actually across from the school is an apartment complex where they do have residents living. So during those school hours, residents are not allowed to make a right-hand turn out of that complex. They're only allowed to make a left-hand turn to follow traffic and to make sure that the road is only a one-way. And then next, please. Okay. So like I said before, the Bound Brook Police Department, they'll regulate the traffic closures where they provided the barrier, and then they also employ the crossing guard. So when I say it's the police department, they have the control of when to place the barriers. And then they also work with the school administrators to best determine which streets to make temporary one-ways to best direct the flow of traffic and to do the drop-off and pickup procedures. The road closures or the temporary one-ways, they begin from 7 to 7:30 and they end around 2:30 to 3 p.m. And then either the officer on duty or the crossing guard will put the barrier in place or remove it on the side of the road. Moving forward, so the Lamont Annex School is actually the pre-kindergarten and kindergarten schools where the barriers delay until at 7:30 and then at 3 p.m. is when they're picked up, just because the nature of the school, the students get out around 2:30, and they have a one-way temporary street on the West 2nd Street. And then in my next slide, you might be able to see a greater picture. It's zoomed in. So where the Lamont School is, it actually runs next to another temporary one-way where we'll move into the Lafayette School in my next slide. So they have 2 one-way streets that end up running opposite. So they don't have to close a main road, which is really convenient. Where in Lafayette Elementary School, it's grades 1 to 2. So there are students still wearing 5-point harnesses. So the drop-off line or more students getting out, it takes a little bit longer for them to get out of the car. So this is where a little bit of the traffic is a little bit slower. And then the barriers also go in at 7:30 as well. These are put in from the police department who are regulating these 2 roads because there's more traffic and you have 2 elementary schools, or the preschool and the elementary school running at the same time with more people dropping their students off. So luckily the police department is very involved in these one-way streets. And then my next school, and then you could skip to the next slide, please. The community middle school also has this as well. This is grades 7 to 8. The barriers go earlier, about 7 a.m. And then the temporary one-way closure or the barrier goes up on East 2nd Street. And that runs eastbound to westbound in the way the direction of the school is, because when you do a temporary one-way closure, you want to make sure that as you're dropping the students off, it's always going to be closest to the school so they don't have to cross the street. And then my next slide, please. And this is just a greater map of how East 2nd Street runs parallel to John Street. And then when they close and they temporarily make it a one-way. So the next school is another district that I work closely with. It's the West End School in the North Plainfield School District. This is a little bit more of a struggle where the traffic is actually on a main road. So on 636, there is a lot of parents. It's a county road that are parking in front of the school, and it's making difficulties with the school because of so much traffic that's traveling from the high school or just onto Route 22. So what West End School decided was there is luckily a side street that runs parallel to the school on Harrington. So what they do is they close the left hand. You're not able to turn onto Harrington from the county road, so you can't make that left hand turn. And what they do is it's a temporary one-way street where you can come up on the side and then you can drop your student off and they're able to walk onto the grass safely and then to go to the school. So in my next slide, it's a better picture. It's a greater picture of where I can explain this. So where Greenbrook Road runs, you see this intersection. So in that maybe back left corner there, unfortunately, the trees are blocking the school. But where parents will come from that side road of Harrington Street, they're able to make a car line that way, and they'll drop their students off right at that corner where there's a crossing guard, and then students walk safely onto the sidewalk to go into school. So there's also a sign on the right-hand side of the road that you unfortunately can't see, that where they temporarily block off the road to make it a one-way in the other direction, and then they close that. And then, so that is a quick presentation on one-way streets. My name is Caty Whalen again, and I represent RideWise, Inc. And if you need any of my contact information, it's provided in the slide, and I can also provide it in the chat. And thank you for having me present today.
Thank you, everybody. That was really great. John, you can stop sharing slides and we can talk about go into some more Q&A. And first, I'll introduce myself. My name's Leanne Von Hagen. I'm a managing director at the Voorhees Transportation Center and help oversee the Safe Routes Resource Center. So again, welcome to everybody who's here today, and thank you to those who put some questions in chat. If you have a question that you're not comfortable putting in chat and you want to raise your hand, we can unmute you for questions if you would like. I'm just going to go through a couple of things. I know they were already answered in chat, but I thought they were worth speaking about a little bit more. And I'm going to start with Hannah. If you want to turn your camera on again, she did get to answer it, but Hannah, are you there? I know she said she had to step away. She messaged me. She's taking care of a young one as well today. So let's go on to another one. The question about when you have a satellite drop-off, is it helpful to have more staffing available at those satellite drop-off locations? And I know, Lisa, you gave the answer, but does anybody else want to chime in about how schools are able to handle the satellite drop-off areas?
I can add something to that real quick. It's not necessary to include more staff. I'd say if you're looking to open a new satellite drop-off that doesn't necessarily have a lot of crossing guards then you will need to add additional crossing guards there, which is a different process in itself where they have to go through background checks. You can't just go out there and put on a yellow vest and be a crossing guard. So as far as like additional school staff, though, you won't need to add that as long as you have a crossing guard at these specific individual satellite locations. It's not necessary. And for the young ones, I know Lisa mentioned this in the chat already. In the case of New Providence, they still have the really, really young ones are still being dropped off in front of the schools, or what the younger ones like grade 3 and below will do is they'll do the park and wait or the park and walk. So parents will walk with their student and they'll just park their cars. So as far as additional staff from like, different schools administration, it's not necessary as long as you have the proper coverage for crossing guards.
Great. Thank you, Jeremy.
I think, I mean, I was going to
ahead.
just say, I mean, I think the whole purpose is to have lots of cars, along that street. So even if you still have the pre-K students and the kindergarten parents coming to drop off right in front of the school, it's still going to not be as bad as if you had everyone from pre-K all the way to like grade 6 or 8 trying to, zoom in there in that 20-minute window to drop off and then zoom out as they're heading off to their jobs or wherever their yoga class. So, as long as you can just reduce that number, it doesn't have to be completely eliminated.
Yeah, and I think, Lisa, that leads to a really good question. And Caty, I think I'll start with you. You talked about the one-way drop-offs and how that helps with making some of that smoother, but how do you use either satellites or one-way drop-offs or other ways to street close, not to really focus on getting more parents driving, because we know that's not the purpose of the program. We don't want to get more parents driving their cars and creating that pollution. We want to use, these kind of initiatives to get more kids walking and biking. So for example, Caty, in Bound Brook, is there a way that you kind of show how that one-way implementation and how to get when you do need to drive, that's the way to do it, and there's the instructions on how, but really we don't want you to drive, right? Can you explain a little bit about how you make that connection?
Right. So what's actually awesome is Brown Brook, they have a wonderful walking school bus program. So there are a lot of kids that walk. I might have forgotten to mention that. Sorry. They do a lot of kids walk. So most of the traffic that's coming is coming from the other side of Bound Brook that is driving, because they have to cross 28, which is a main highway. So a lot of the students that live on the other side of 28 all walk, and there's more kids that walk than drive, where that car line starts and ends. So school begins at 8:10 in the morning. When I was over there taking pictures around 7:30, there really were only maybe 30 cars that were dropping students off, which I believe is not a lot, where more kids are coming from the residential neighborhoods. So there's a great connection that about once a week they do more kids. They'll meet up at one of the corners near more of the high school on that safer side of 28 where kids are walking. There are other initiatives or programs that we have where we're doing more walking school buses and kids are just walking. We do every year in Bound Brook, we do a walk or a bike contest, especially in October, to increase more kids walking. So last year, Smalley School actually had a bike rack, an additional bike rack donated by Pop's Bike Shop, who we work with very closely, where more kids have been filling up the bike racks and there was no bike parking. So they were just leaving their bicycles on the grass. But then in Lamont and in Lafayette, where those schools are on the opposite side of 28, so you will have parents who are driving their kids to school because they find it more convenient than to do a drop off or than to walk their students to the other side of 28. So we have more parents that are actually walking their kids to school, but we find more that there are more kids where or parents who have two kids that are in different ages schools. They have to cross 28, so they're driving more. But what we've tried doing is seeing if they can drop, their older kid off at a different time, and then they'll be able to be back to then walk their younger kid to the school. So the schools also stagger the times that they're starting, so parents can have time to even walk their children to school and things like that. So in Bound Brook, especially since it's a walking school district, we do have more kids walking. It's a program that's been around for years where they have the walking school buses. So we've been more fortunate where we don't actually see a lot of people driving in those.
That's great.
That was great. Yeah.
Anybody else, like Lisa, when you see satellite drop off, or Jeremy, when you see satellite drop off, part of the reason is to get fewer cars, to get more cars off the road, to have fewer cars in the school zone. Are people making that connection with things like satellite drop off, or is there some sort of messaging you do to say, the purpose is to not drive, right?
So is your question, is there messaging done? That's what you're saying, asking?
Yeah, like is there messaging that goes with like satellite drop off or other sort of initiatives like this? Because the focus is often it's so focused on like here's how you drive to this area, but the real purpose is to not drive. So like is there any messaging, special messaging you do to say, listen, the reason we're doing this satellite drop off is to reduce the number of people driving, so it is safer for your child walking in the school zone, you know, and that sort of thing. Is there have you had any success with any messaging to kind of get that point across to parents who are driving?
I think for New Providence's case, we do advocate and promote the idea of carpooling with other families who might be living around your area. So to reduce the amount of cars that are on the road, and I think it is a great opportunity for a lot of people to take advantage of and carpool, and that way there's a lot less cars on the road. So
oh, I think Jeremy froze again.
Anyway, at
yeah,
that point, we've reached 1:30, so we have to wrap up, but I'd like to thank the panelists for their great presentations. I'd like to thank all the participants for being here, and I would encourage everyone to come back next week for more great Safe Routes Academy. So until then, thank you, and see you in a week.
Right. I would just want to throw something in there too. School districts adopt that Safe Routes to policy, Safe Routes to School policy. You can put it there. You can broadcast it out, put it in your handbook for parents, share it, like every few months after, whenever there's a vacation. Hey, remember, we're doing this for safety. So just like Leanne said, emphasize the reason for the season. I don't know.
Words to ponder. Thanks,
Yes,
Lisa.
thank you,
And
Lisa.
we will see you all next week. Thank you.
Thank you so much, everybody. Thanks
Bye.
for joining us today.